So this video was partially inspired by a YouTube video by the creator called Zephyr. Highly recommend him. He does this kind of like anime commentary style of video. But in that video, he made like an offhanded joke in one of his videos about JJK Shibuya arc.
And not even the show taking Yuji seriously, because while he's breaking down, they decide to play the ending theme during his moment. Niggas always say men's mental health matters until they have to actually help a man. Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way. But anyways.
So this kind of inspired me to try and tell a story as well as explain what leads to men having this sort of idea. So as I've been battling my new onset depression due to loneliness I've been experiencing in college, this new emotion, and in that experience, I've been rattling my head about male loneliness as since after the election, a lot of people are concerned about men's rightward shift into politics and what's causing this. And in this entire problem, I've noticed that I'm very similar to Allen Iverson and Ekko from Arcane. Yeah, those guys. You see, I've never really had a girlfriend. I've only had one relationship, and that lasted about a month due to other factors outside that I will not get into here. Tried talking to other people and things like that, but things just haven't gone my way. But in this experience, I found that I really don't like talking about it because I feel like everyone, especially people who are in relationships, give really bad advice. Like they don't feel like they're hearing me sometimes because I'll ask myself, what's wrong with me? What am I doing? All of that. I've been on this healing journey for myself of facing my own demons and talking through my emotions with other friends and going on the right steps towards healing yourself to open yourself up to a relationship. And I'll go through all of this and then I will get friend zoned, so to speak. And I'll leave myself wondering like, what's wrong with me? What am I what is it about me that might be a red flag or something might be wrong that I'm not realizing? Because I'm doing something right because they still want me to be a friend. So they're not just outright rejecting me full stop, but I'm not exactly winning in the traditional sense. I'm not exactly getting a partner, if that makes sense. But when I would express this to people, and especially people who are in relationships, I would get told there are plenty of fish in the sea. I have to keep trying. I'll find someone eventually, and just kept feeling like I was being dismissed. Or they'll say some things like, "Oh, relationships aren't really all that. Just wait. All that, those things." That felt like I was in a cycle of getting on a horse, falling off, getting told to get back on the horse, getting on the horse again, falling off, and then the cycle keeps going on and on and on and on. And now I'm finding myself to a point where I don't want to I want to break this cycle because I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to keep playing this game of putting myself out there and not finding someone, so to speak. And I know that may come off as like misogynistic and not the right terminology or things of that nature, but that's just what my experiences have been like for the most part. But in this journey, I found that I'm very similar to winless goats or ringless goats in the sense that legends of a sport who have gotten all the accomplishments, the MVPs, the all pros, the all stars, all these different accomplishments, but don't have a championship. The biggest accomplishment of them all, the championships, to really make them stand out. And I've kind of realized this when seeing other guys online talk about this, where they feel like they're good guys. They're not the manosphere type of dudes, but they keep feeling like they're being pushed aside. And I found that guys feel like these goats or these legends with who are ringless, and what causes this feeling as well as the discourse surrounding it. I love sports just as much as cinema, photography, politics, and all. And I've loved sports for a long period of my life. And one big part of sports is sports media. And sports media I'm including for this video is not just people online talking about sports like on TikTok or Instagram. I mean established media personalities talking about sports on an ESPN. Think First Take, pardon my interruption, things of that nature. And something that I've noticed about legends of a sport, current and past, when we talk about them not having rings and comparing them to other legends who do, the conversation starts changing in this way that feels disingenuous to the ones who don't have rings, but in a very particular kind of way. And to explain this, I'm going to use Allen Iverson. So Allen Iverson is the famous point guard who, for a majority of his career, played for the Philadelphia 76ers. During the latter half of his career, he started getting a lot of criticism for him not having a ring with the 76ers. He had already been on the team for about 10 years at this point, and the team wasn't performing well. They were 5-18 heading into the trade deadline, and they just weren't looking great. And Allen Iverson had expressed that if something doesn't change, he wants out, or something along those lines. The problem was that when this got out, the media portrayed it as Allen Iverson was quitting on the team, when internally players and some people in the organization understood why Allen Iverson had said that up to that point. He wanted to go somewhere where he felt he had a better chance of winning a championship, and Philly just wasn't that team at that time. Allen Iverson was still putting up great numbers, so it wasn't like he was useless. It was just he didn't have the supporting cast around him to get it done. He had already failed to win a finals before, and he really wanted to get that ring at the end of the day for his career. But due to this framing, AI was seen as the main villain, and this carried along with him when the trade finally finished for him to go to the Denver Nuggets to play with Carmelo Anthony. Now AI had this reputation, which already had existed beforehand, because David Stern had this really weird beef for some reason with AI. I don't know why. He didn't play proper or talk proper. But it was this weird thing with David Stern and Allen Iverson. So, because of that, it wasn't looking great for him for the most part. So this problem kept continuing with him having to compete with people for roster spots that he probably shouldn't have to compete with, considering his career accomplishments as well as the numbers he was putting up at that current point, for him to just even keep a starting role on the team. And I bring up this story in the story of Charles Barkley, Barry Bonds, Jim Kelly, Barry Sanders, Mike Trout, like all of these different guys, as a way to emphasize the fact that when we talk about their careers, in the moment, all we do is bash them for not having a ring. We bash them for not getting that number one accomplishment. All their other accomplishments that they have up to that point, we say doesn't matter. The rings is what matters. The rings is what makes a legend, that proves that you are the best of the best in that very season. But they've done everything that they can in their power to do that. And these are team sports. So obviously, if they're team sports, not everything's their fault, but they're the best player on the team. So they got to step up. They got to do this. They got to do that. They have to be the reason why the team wins the ring and the reason why they don't. And there are very different examples. Reggie Miller, all these different examples of players. Ken Griffey, I'm just thinking of more on the top of my head, of who go through this experience. When they retire, and if they're lucky enough to make it to the Hall of Fame, the conversation changes. Like, oh, the rings don't really matter. You're still a legend. You're still a top 75 player in the NBA. You're still one of the best people to ever step on a diamond. You're still the greatest running back of all time. But for those men, I feel like when they hear that, they're like, but y'all weren't saying that when I was playing. I was still putting up those numbers existed even when I was still on the field. But all I was getting chastised for was not having a ring. But now you're telling me now it doesn't matter. And now they feel this contradiction. And this contradiction to me is similar to how we talk about men who are single and don't have partners. And especially if they're seeking partners and are having trouble with it. Now, quick PSA. I am not trying to make a misogynistic argument of r/nice guys basically makes them entitled to them. I'm not trying to make that argument. I am the guy I'm talking about is a dude who genuinely is a good dude and understands all the things that you want to see in a guy who just so happens to be single, even though he's looking for a partner. So he understands women. He's not entitled to women. He gives them agency. He doesn't act toxic after they have shown no interest. He very respectful, all those things in this hypothetical, but he's still having trouble. And also, I understand that with this analogy, I am comparing dating a woman or getting a partner to winning a championship, and then by proxy I'm comparing women to a inanimate object, and I know that comes off as misogynistic, but that is the only way I feel like I could get this analogy to work so you can understand what it's like to walk in these men's shoes. And then for guys who are like these legends, who are good, who do take the time to deconstruct them, to work through their problems, they feel like they're being pushed aside when they're single, but when they get older to a certain age, they're like, oh, it didn't matter, that was your 20s, yada yada. And now you're like, you feel like people were telling you one thing when you were 20, but now that you're 30, you're getting told different things, and now you're feeling like they never cared in the first place. And even with that, even if they understand that being nice to women does not mean they're going to get laid, being nice to women does not mean you're going to get her, and all of that, you should want to be nice because it's nice, right? They understand that, but that still doesn't make them feel better. And then to even want to add on to all of this, it feels worse when you hear that advice of you'll find the one when you're hearing it from someone who has a partner, who's been in a long-term relationship. Speaking from my own self, I hate the one advice that I really hate hearing is it's not what it's all chalked up to be. It's not all that. To when one of my friends is in a relationship, because the evil part of me, the selfish A-train, like let's kill the horse part of Millard wants to say like, okay, take your phone out and break up with your boyfriend. Break up with your girlfriend right now. If it's not all that, break up with her and be single for 3 years. Take 3 years to yourself for your life. No, if you say it's not all that, break up with them and do that. No, oh, now you're telling me they're the love of your life. They're the, oh my God, I couldn't imagine living without. Oh, so it does matter. You see why someone would want to be in a relationship, but you're telling me it's not all that, right? But that's the selfish, more angry part of myself. It's like Patrick Mahomes telling Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson championships don't matter when he has 3 before the age of 30. Like, come on, bro. Both of these men have been busting their asses with teams or organizations who are trying to help them get a championship. You have 3, and you have one of the greatest tight ends as your right-hand man, and have 2 offensive geniuses inside your coaching staff. Like, Josh Allen's had to deal with a coach that is kind of stupid, and Lamar Jackson has to deal with a defense that sometimes forgets how to stop someone from running. Like, you see how that can come off to someone who's going through that. And to me, that's what that's like when someone says, oh, relationships aren't all what they're chalked up to be, or relationships aren't really all that, or you'll find the one from someone who's in a relationship. Because because it's like if Lamar Jackson said, okay, Patrick, if it's not all that, give me one of your rings. Patrick would feel very, very disrespected if he said that. And to add on to the part where I mentioned Ekko from Arcane, if you've watched Arcane Season 2, you know that Ekko's idea is called the Boy Savior. That in episode, I believe it's 11, Ekko goes to an alternate reality where Jinx did not become Jinx and stayed as Powder. And he gets to see this world where everyone lived, there's no war, and he's at peace. But part of him knows that this isn't his reality and this isn't what was given to him in life, even though the life that he has back on his world and his universe is worse. It's objectively worse, and no one would fault him if he wanted to stay in this one, but he knows that he needs to go back to the one that he's a part of. He needs to save his world. And when Ekko goes back, knowing that he's giving this up, he tries to at least fix his relationship with Jinx in his world so he could. In the final battle, Jinx sacrifices herself to save everyone, and Zahn and Piltover are basically at peace with each other for now. And Vi stays with her girlfriend, and a lot of people who got to live have peaceful lives except Ekko. Ekko's now taking this somewhat de facto role as one of the leaders of Zahn, and he has nothing happy to hang his hat on. He gets to look over a world that he sacrificed to save, but he gets no fruits of his labor. And I'm using Ekko as a point to emphasize the fact that a lot of guys feel like this when they go and they don't bash women. They don't do that. And I know this comes off as, well, isn't that them expecting to get something out of it? Get a relationship out of women that they're not entitled to for being nice, which I say, yes, that is how it comes off. But the problem that I'm finding is that should they not want a relationship at all? Is it wrong of them to want a partner at all? To want companionship at all? Because that to me isn't misogynistic. I don't think any rational feminist would even say that. But that's what they want. And because that's what they want, they're going to get they're going to feel like this. To add on to this Ekko like feeling, to go back to the sports analogy, you can sometimes even feel like you are sacrificing and you're doing everything right and you still don't have a partner, and you see guys who are objectively bad dudes, the Andrew Tates, the Fresh and Fits, the insert whatever red pill dude ever, Alpha M, like all these dudes who are objectively worse guys. Like, you know, it's not even you having an ego, it's you know they are worse guys than you, but they always got a woman on their arm, and you don't have that, and that sucks a lot. And so I had to look over at my audio, and that sucks a lot. So now we're basically sitting in this circle of men who are like looking at these other dudes who are bad dudes getting girls consensually. So it's not like they're doing harmful things consensually, who have terrible opinions about women, who don't speak good about women, who don't respect them, all the misogynistic things, but they're in consensual relationships with women. And you're basically like Jimmy Butler screaming, Tobias Harris over me? And like, is he wrong for him to feel mad that a nigga who's worse than him is getting what he wants? So the part of this equation that I have been glossing over, that I recently have found sort of an answer to, is the idea that men do have it hard. Now, do not misunderstand me when I am saying that men have it hard. I am not saying that men have it harder than women. I do think women have it harder. I am shaking the desk so much my camera is moving. My favorite quote when it comes to the gender war and male loneliness and what it's like to be a man is that the patriarchy has no gender. Meaning that the patriarchy doesn't only just hurt women, it hurts men. It hurts men too. But just in different ways. But culturally, men can express that pain because it can sometimes be seen as disrespectful to female pain at the hands of the patriarchy. A video by, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read this. Shazme? Could someone please correct me in the comments about how to pronounce their name? A video by Shazme, God, titled "My Answer to Why Men Are Lonely." They talk about this unseen addiction.
Yeah.
is how we talk about this.
Women are constantly encouraged to view on their independence, their self-discovery journey, and personal goals, and the message is that you're whole on your own regardless of relationship status, especially since liberal feminism hit the mainstream. There's no rush to get into a happily ever after because honestly, those don't exist. But for men, it's almost the opposite. They're given this subtle push towards relationships as a sign of stability and success with little emphasis on finding fulfillment alone. There's something strange about how men seem to be more desirable the moment they're in a relationship. It's almost like specifically straight women see a partnered man as more valuable, like he's proven himself somehow just by having a girlfriend or wife, whereas a single guy is seen as unproven, again, even if he's single by choice. Like how an alpha male are ripped on because even though they're single by choice, they're still blamed to be the reason to not have a girlfriend despite how much they say, I don't have a girlfriend simply because I don't want one. If I wanted one, I could get one by tomorrow. You know, like me whenever I want a burger. Because people are burgers. It seems like a relationship for men signals to others that they're reliable, attractive, or at least a good enough person to hold down a serious relationship.
As society got and gets more progressive, we tend to view single women as working on themselves or waiting on the right one and not needing to rush to get into a relationship. The problem is, as society progressed for women, we didn't do the same for men because men are a higher tier on the patriarchy, you don't think about their feelings and how that's applied. But a side effect of this is become that single men are seen as undesirable, as untested and not worth giving a shot to. This is that going back to the idea I mentioned earlier of, do I have red flags because I'm single? Because if you keep putting yourself out there to date and you're not getting a partner, people start to think maybe there are red flags are showing up when you start talking to them in the talking stage, that they don't want to date you or things of that nature. And because of that, you start internalizing those things because you don't have any other way of knowing that you don't have red flags. So because we haven't had that same idea for men of, oh, maybe he's just taking time to himself, maybe he's, working on himself and things of that nature, we haven't done that for men the same way how we've done for women. So this is why some TikTok trends will talk about women find men who are in relationships more desirable than men who are single, because men who are single are untested. You don't know what they're like, and that's a risk. But I understand why women have that risk, because they have to worry about SA and being touched inappropriately and things of that nature. And you can at least assume that if a man's been in a relationship, that he won't do those things because he's been in a relationship with another woman compared to a man who hasn't, even if that man who's in a relationship might not have the best relationship and might actually be doing those things compared to a guy who's single but knows not to. Does that make sense? Men are taught that if you want a relationship, pursue it, while if women want one, to wait it out or wait for the right one, right? Men are taught to search while women are taught to wait and scan through, if that makes sense. However, the opposite scenario would never happen. Women do pursue men, but not in the way men do. And I'm saying this in the sense of, men are taught to go up to women if you want to talk to them and get in a relationship. Women aren't taught to do that. They're taught to wait for a man to ask you out and then, see how he talks, see how he interacts, to see if he's a safe dude to be around, and do you like him that way. Men, we aren't taught to do that because women don't approach men traditionally. And because of that, men are naturally going to, if you're someone who's more introverted, that just makes this whole scenario harder. However, the opposite scenario is true, because society no longer or anymore tells women to pursue a partner to complete themselves, that they are less of a woman if they aren't in a partnership. We never told that to guys. So if guys are going on the self-healing journey, they feel like to complete that healing journey, they need to have a partner. So if they can't get a partner, that means something is wrong with them as a person. They need to fix and go back to. This is something that I've explained to people in my life, where I feel like every time I go through a talking stage that doesn't work out, I have to take time to myself, because my self-worth is partially tied to that. And it's maybe something I need to work on, but that's just what, as a guy, I've been conditioned to believe. To add on to this, men are taught to not cry at all. But if they must cry, the only women that they can cry in front of is their mother or their partner. So if you're a guy and you're living on your own, so you can't go to your mother as readily as you could when you were a child, and you wanted to be someone to be emotionally vulnerable with, even if you had female friends, because they're not your partner, you don't feel being emotionally vulnerable with them because you feel like you're overstepping a boundary. And this is part of the patriarchy I think women contribute to without realizing it, because they want to uphold masculine gender norms because they haven't been taught to break those down as well. This is where I'll bring up the FD6 signifier video of PS5 Secured, where women are taught to give men gifts that reinforce their masculinity, and if it's not reinforcing their masculinity, then it's not a good gift for him.
That for the most part, men are taught that we shouldn't want or need to feel special or appreciated or loved by our partners. I mean, ladies watching this right now, if you had to go and buy something for your man that you know would make him smile from his heart and feel loved, what would you get? Tools, some lingerie, maybe a watch or something else very typical and basic? It's probably relatively hard because we don't have a consumer culture built around buying things for men. There's an entire culture of consumerism built around showing a woman she is loved through jewelry, clothes, flowers, etc. And these things have their own set of problematic social codes attached to them. But as a man, if you want something, if you really want it, you're supposed to get it yourself. You aren't allowed to have other people buy things for you that make you happy. That could be seen as emasculating. And half of the things we get for ourselves are more symbolic of our status or function as men versus things that actually just bring us joy. Men buy watches, cars, fancy suits because.
And I want to emphasize all of this is that men do feel like they can only be emotionally vulnerable with a woman if they're in a relationship. And for the women watching, I want to ask you, if one of your male friends came up to you and was emotionally vulnerable with you or wanted to cry with you, you're not his girlfriend, you're not related to him, you're not his mother, would you feel like he's overstepping a bound, or would you even feel comfortable doing that? Because if I was a betting man, I would say no. This dilemma that men find themselves in has very few pathways for men to go through to get out of this feeling. One of them is that they can continue to go on that self-growth journey and keep trying. Taking the advice of keep trying to get into a relationship and keep putting themselves out there, and hopefully they'll find someone. And they'll take the knife cuts of failed talking stages and rejections, and they'll keep taking them as they get there until they find someone they want to be in a relationship with and they reciprocate those feelings. Or they can choose to drop their morals, see the guys who believe red pill content, who have misogynistic views towards women, but still see them with girls and say, fuck it, I'm dropping my morals. I'm dropping all of this and I'm going to try something new to try and get a partner. A third option is they go the Ekko route, kind of quietly quitting on relationships, saying, I'm never going to find mine, or I'm not going to search it out, and I'm just going to hopefully show, like a Disney movie, stumble into my hands, in more of this Ekko fashion of not being rude to women, still treating them as people, but no longer pursuing it and kind of quietly quitting. And the worst option, and trigger warning for suicide, you can go the black pill route. Black pill comes from the same Manosphere of red pill content, but much deeper and much, much darker. Black pill talks about the idea that you are so ugly and so disgusting that you will never get a partner no matter what. So you should kill yourself instead, because it's better to be dead than to live a life lonely and alone. But to end off this video, what do we tell them? What do we give? What advice can we give them that's better than just keep trying? Look out for the future. Come on, man, you'll find it. So my advice to women who have male friends or brothers who are going through this is don't pray for them. Be there for them. Actually take time and help them build a social circle. I mean, don't tell them to go to social events, go to orgs. No, be there for them. They need to feel like someone in this world is looking out for them because they don't feel that. So be there for them. Don't pray for them. Be there for them. However, what I can say is never say there are plenty of fish in the sea. Never say it gets better. Never say wait for the right person. Don't say things like that, because as I've stated multiple times in this video, it comes off as disingenuous. It comes off like you're dismissing what they're going through. And I understand that you might not know what the best advice is to give for someone going through this, but what I can say is just don't give that. Sometimes it's better to not say anything than say something that's not going to be helpful. And for the guys who I'm speaking to, I want to say like move over, bro. Like, I need room for me to wall up as well. But in all seriousness, I don't really have the best advice to directly give to you because I'm still going through it. And I don't want to give the advice. I just demonize others for giving me, so I don't want to give you that exact same advice. But what I can say is having a social circle does help. And remembering that keeping with your morals is good because just being a good person is good. And to end it off, I will remind you of a song by my favorite R&B artist, Masenko, titled Mystery Lady. For all of us hopeless romantics who keep dreaming of that one special person that if we just get the chance, we know we'll make it count.
Thinking I can make as many songs,